The Elder Scrolls is one of the longest-running complex RPG video game series to date. With the release of their fifth major title, Skyrim, even more gamers hopped on the Elder Scrolls bandwagon, devoting hours and hours to playing the fantasy title. It was just so damn good, and its open world was utterly compelling. At points when exploring dungeons or tombs or mines, the game can feel downright terrifying too. It's not easy to get a little scared when facing Draugr or Falmer, leaving players ripe with inspiration for Skyrim-themed creepypastas and urban legends. So today we're counting down a select few of those with our list of the scariest Skyrim creepypastas. Let's get to it. Starting us off, we have Beta Disc. This story begins with our narrator's uncle Jerry passing away. After his death, he was cleaning out Jerry's old house and discovered some interesting objects in his attic. Now, Jerry had worked previously for Bethesda as a PR guy for the last 8 years of his life, and this box was marked with the company's name on it. Our narrator looked in, curious, and found an unmarked disc inside of it, with a note that had been crudely written that said, "Jerry, this thing has got to be destroyed. Make sure nobody finds out about this Skyrim beta. The controversy could ruin us. Signed, TH. Who could that be? Curious, our narrator, filled with questions, decided to pocket the disc, and when he got home, popped it into his PC. He decided that it would be cool to journal his experience with the beta and see what this note was all about. On day 1, our narrator wrote that the game ran pretty smoothly at first. It also lacked the long prisoner introduction sequence. Instead, you were just dropped into the game, starting with the character creation screen. Something was slightly off about the models though. He couldn't help but notice that their eyes seemed different than what he remembered from the released Skyrim game. He chose to play as an Argonian, his favorite, and began the game. At this point, Helgen had already been devastated by a dragon attack, and bodies were littered everywhere. As he explored, he noticed the corpse of Ulfric Stormcloak, the rebel leader in Skyrim that you don't encounter until much later in the title. He also spotted General Tullius, the Imperial leader in Skyrim. Strange. This meant that the plot of the game must have been very different than the one released. On the second day, he continued to explore Helgen, scavenging for whatever useful items he could find. He noticed that the mountains in the distance looked fairly unrendered, and that all of the wildlife he encountered was violent, even peaceful creatures like deer. He raided a few mines, all of which lacked bandits, and felt very strange. On the third day, he went to Riverwood. Even from a distance, he could tell that something was off, and swore that he heard some sort of laughter faintly on the wind. Riverwood had been completely destroyed. Had a dragon attacked here too? All of the NPCs were dead. That's when he noticed something else odd. A figure in the distance with an axe in his hand. Now when he approached this NPC, they started to ramble, saying, "Took it all away from me, killed my wife and my boy, but you won't get me." Then, as if the NPC noticed that he was standing there, started to shout, "Never should have come here." They lunged at his character, swinging wildly. That's when the player realized that it was Hod, the deranged lumberjack. They attacked Hod back in self-defense, killing him. After, they explored the cellar that Hod was standing in front of. Inside was a note that read, "Mad Hunt, Deadroth, Blood Moon, Collapsed Kingdoms, Nirn Forsaken and Fallen, Blackreach, Daedra, Daedra, Daedra." What did it mean? What was going on? Well, he turned off the game. His journal then resumed on day 7, when the player finally made his way to Blackreach. Now the closer he got to Blackreach, the more he heard the same eerie laughter. On the way, he saw giants on roads, all impaled on massive stakes. It filled him with dread. Whoever took out those giants must be strong, and he'd need to level up his character immensely in order to fight them. By day 13, after spending a few days leveling up, he finally went into Blackreach. Or at least tried. He noted that there were a lot of Falmer lurking around, and that the city looked as if it was in the process of being reconstructed. That's when he noticed that the city was full of Daedra, and it seemed as if they had the Falmer under their control. The next and final entry was on day 18. The player noted that Blackreach's reconstruction was almost complete, and that the Falmer had gathered towards the center of the city, doing something that appeared like praying. Approaching the city gates, he found them to be locked, so he went to a nearby house and went to sleep in a bed, hoping a few in-game hours passing may fix that problem. But when he woke up, the game was totally different. He couldn't move the game's camera. The room was pitch black, with only part of the floor visible. Finally, something appeared. It was Sheogorath, the Daedric prince. He started to speak to the player, asking what he was doing here. It wasn't long before the player realized that this must be a game in which the Daedra won in Oblivion, the previous Elder Scrolls major title. The prince then attacked him, the screen went red, and the loading screen appeared. After the game loaded, the player found himself in a clearing in the woods. His character's right arm had been ripped off. It was gruesome, and the player almost felt sick at the sight of it. Around him, creatures started to emerge from the woods. They were NPCs, half human, half animal, all crying out in agony. They closed in on his character, but before anything could happen, the player turned off the game and never resumed it again. Next up, we've got a creepypasta called Curse of the Sword. This creepypasta tells the tale of a gamer who bought Skyrim on Steam. Now, before he even fully downloaded the game, he was already searching the web for mods, having heard that there were some pretty good ones for the Elder Scrolls series. He stumbled upon a website that he had never visited before that had a mod called Curse of the Sword. There wasn't any pictures or videos, only a text description that read, "Hope there's a toilet under you." He googled the name of the mod, but nothing else came up on any of the Skyrim forums. Curious, he decided to download it, thinking it was some sort of joke. Now, after Skyrim had fully downloaded, he installed the mod immediately, and to his surprise, on the game's main menu, there was an option with the title of the mod, and a distorted image of what appeared to be a man's head split into multiple pieces. He selected it. The loading screen featured an image of a sword with a red glow around it. When the game loaded up, he looked into his inventory to discover a bunch of rare Daedric items. Neat. So he started to explore and eventually found himself near a tomb with a sign outside that read, "Do not enter or die." So naturally he entered. The first thing he noticed was how silent the tomb was. The second thing, after descending for what felt like several minutes, was that on the stone path below him there was a lot of dry blood and skeleton bones. All of a sudden, a piercing noise blasted through his computer speakers. It lasted for a split second, but it was jarring nonetheless. He looked around. Nothing was nearby his character. He eventually found a room with a chest in it after continuing to explore. Opening it, it contained an item named simply Sword. As soon as he collected it, he was teleported elsewhere to what can only be described as a different dimension. The loading screen read, "Why did you pick up the sword?" Naturally, the player figured it was the Cursed Sword, the namesake of the mod, and was curious with where this was going. Once the loading screen disappeared, everything was black, with the faintest glow in the distance of a still figure walking towards him. He couldn't describe it, but for whatever reason, terror and dread seeped into him, and he began to uncontrollably shake in real life. As the figure got closer, he could make out its details. It had a deformed face with eyes pulled out of their sockets, a body with hundreds of slashes, bleeding, and in its legs were swords, identical to the cursed sword that he had picked up. Text appeared on the screen that read, "I told you." He was utterly terrified. Before he could move or do anything though, his computer shut off. Tried turning it back on, only to discover that the mod was nowhere to be found, completely wiped off of his computer. And last but not least, our next creepypasta is Dagon the Dark. This creepypasta begins by bringing the wait feature in Skyrim to the reader's attention. Now in Skyrim, compared to earlier Elder Scrolls games, the wait feature allows you to choose between an hour to 24 hours to wait, just to pass time in the game, and a time lapse occurs behind the waiting screen that depicts time going by, from shadows moving rapidly to the sky changing color. Now the author notes that they didn't think people or other living things were rendered during the wait time, but they were wrong. While they were playing one day, they decided to wait from 3 AM in game time to 8 AM in game time in order to wait for a shop to open in Whiterun. Now as he waited, he noticed something strange pass him by. It was a shadowy figure that came up from the ground and fell back within it, all within the duration of about half a second. It made the player jump, but he assumed it must have been a glitch of sorts, or something flying overhead, like a dragon, but it was missing texture and must have been just a black model. Curious, he decided to go to the Bethesda forums and wrote a post about it, but accidentally misspelled dragon, calling it Dagon in his post instead. That led to a joke on the forum about this mysterious shadow being called Dagon the Dark. But despite the comments the player received, no one had any clue as to what it actually was. One guy suggested that if it were a dragon, and it was just missing textures, it would be invisible. But he was curious too, so he said that he would go into the code of the game and see if there was anything for all black dragon textures. After that, the player returned to their game, only to discover that there were no dragons in it at all anymore. Strange. They searched over 6 days in-game for one, and none ever showed up. They even tried summoning one, but nothing happened. So the player started a new game instead. But that's when things got weird. The game didn't begin where it usually did, with the prisoner sequence and the Unbound quest. Instead, it began in Whiterun at Dragon's Reach. After a bit of exploring, the player realized that the Jarl was nowhere to be found, which made things even creepier when they started to hear the Jarl's voice say aloud, "You have to slay the beast." Assuming that the beast was the dragon from the Dragon Rising quest, the player continued on their way outside of Dragon's Reach, only to discover that all of the guards and the NPCs out there were also repeating the same phrase, "You have to slay the beast." After checking out the tower where you fight the dragon in that mission, the player was surprised to find no dragon. Only more guards who said the exact same phrase. That's when it happened. Dagon the Dark, an entirely black dragon without wings that matched the shadow that the player saw while waiting, just appeared. It slaughtered all of the guards nearby, with them screaming louder than the player had ever heard them do before in the game. Its eyes were pitch black, and when it faced the player, it opened up its big black mouth. Next thing the player knew, their character was swallowed whole. Their screen went white. They looked around, and finally, they directed their vision to their feet. There, staring back at them, was Dagon's model. The player couldn't look look away, and after what felt like an eternity, they woke up on the floor of their room, their computer turned off. The player went onto the forum and their post to discover that that one guy who said he would look into the code had responded to him. Now this guy couldn't find anything in the game but asked for the player to send over a copy of their game directory so he could patch his own game with the player's buggy files. Now it turns out that there was something there, but while they were chatting and this guy was in the middle of investigating it, his messages to the player just randomly halted, as if something had happened to him, and the player never heard from him again. Alright, there we have it friends, a handful of Skyrim creepypastas. Now for the full versions, be sure to give the titles of each of these a Google. They're great reads and worth checking out on your own time. If you dug this video, spread the love, hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe to Top 10 Gaming for more lists of the game-themed creepypastas just like this one. In the meantime though, thanks for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.